In today's episode of Today in World War II, April 18th, U-boat ace Otto Kretschmer's U-boat U-99 was commissioned today. The first prototype of the ME-262 jet fighter flew in 1941. Doolittle raid happened today over Japan. The Palm Sunday Massacre happens in the air over the Mediterranean. Uh, Admiral Yamamoto's plane over Bougainville is shot down. The Allies finally take Monte Cassino. Famed and beloved U.S. journalist Ernie Pyle is killed in an island off of Okinawa. And finally, 300,000 encircled German troops in the Ruhr region surrender. Let's get started. Okay, on April 18, 1940, the German submarine U-99 was commissioned. You might think to yourself, well, big deal. How many hundreds of U-boats did they commission during the war? Well, this was a special U-boat. And when I mean special, it's because it was made famous by its captain, Otto, Smiling Otto Kretschmer in command. U-99 would sink around over 280,000 tons of Allied shipping before it would be sunk in March of 1941. Last month, I talked about this in great detail about how Kretschmer's sub was rammed and sunk by the HMS Walker. And Mr. Kretschmer, Herr Kretschmer, would spend the rest of the war in a POW camp, and he could, just reminisce and think about the good times when he could smile when he was sinking and killing people. Look, it was a war. I get it. I'm just being facetious. All right. So on April 18th, 1941, the ME-262 prototype made its first test flight. Look at the date. April 18th, 1941. Now, albeit I understand this was not a jet engine, they were using pistons, but nevertheless, that's how far the Germans were in their innovation of a jet fighter. So imagine if they had put their full resources towards getting these fighters developed and mass produced and out there, in the air war, both on the Eastern Front and the Western Front. I've said this before. I know, I'm sorry, but I have to hammer this home. You know, our one of our best allies in a really weird, surreal sense was Hitler because he made some horrible decisions, and this would have changed everything. It would have given the Nazis air superiority. It would have been impossible for the Normandy invasion to happen, depending on when they got it out in full deployment. But I mean, without air superiority, um, it's a whole different war. So that was key, and that was one of the most crucial uh, blunders that he made in the war. I could go on and on about the blunders he made. Okay, first of all, diverting the Central Front attack in 41 against the Soviets and diverting them down the bulk of the army groups to encircle the Kiev Soviets, and they didn't get back to making a full-blown assault on Moscow 2 months until 2 months later. It was already cold. That was a huge blunder too, but don't get me started. On April 18th, 1942, uh, General Doolittle, he and his 16 B-25 bombers took off from the Hornet. They took off about 200 miles farther out than they wanted to because they were spotted by Japanese fishing trawlers who were basically out there to see if people like the USS Hornet and Enterprise would be approaching um, the home islands, and it meant that they would uh, barely make it to China, and one landed in Russia, assuming the Soviet Union. But again, this was not a tactical uh, victory. It was a strategic victory for how the Japanese reacted, right? I mean, if you think about it, look at what happened in 2001 on September 11th when Osama bin Laden attacked the Twin Towers in New York. If you look at there's definitely like before and after. And we committed so many blunders in the Middle East provoked by that one symbolic attack. Same thing happened here. It provoked Yamamoto to push forward the Midway invasion, and we know what happened there. On April 18th, 1943, the Palm Sunday Massacre took place. And this was a German name for this. It wasn't us. They called it the Palm Sunday Massacre. What was it? Well, as I've been telling you in previous videos here, they were trying to do an airlift from Italy and Sicily of transport aircraft to keep supplying the Garrison Africa Corps in North Tunisia to help them hang on because the Allies had effectively cut any seaborne resupply, and so they were trying to do it by air. Well, on this day, about 47 P-40s and 12 Spitfires intercepted a large Axis air convoy, off of Tunisia and shot down 24 German transport aircraft and 10 German fighters and also some Italian fighters. So, just to reiterate, so many lives were lost. German and Italian lives were lost. They dubbed it the Palm Sunday Massacre. It was their position in Tunisia was untenable, and it would just be a matter of days before they were forced to surrender. On April 18, 1943, the Americans had intercepted with their magic, with their code breaking Rochefort and crew. They had intercepted messages that Admiral Yamamoto would be in the Solomon Islands, and he was taking a tour of all the bases in the South Pacific, and they could extrapolate that he would be over Bougainville at a certain period of time, and they made the decision to go after him. And so there were some P-38 Lightnings that were based in Guadalcanal, and they had the range. The two-engine fighters had the range to get there, and a decision was made to go after Yamamoto. They did. They did shoot him down, and they killed the most effective Japanese admiral in the war. I would say that I don't think it would have mattered either way, of course, and I don't think Yamamoto was all that good anyway. All right. I mean, if you step back and if you and think about, his decisions, he wasn't that great of an admiral. I mean, he committed everything piecemeal. He never put the one time that he put together a punch, a fist, when he put six carriers and did a strike from his six carriers. That was Pearl Harbor, and even then he screwed it up by not doing more attacks to take out the dry docks and take out the oil facilities there. You know, so I mean, all he did, let's face it, all he did was shoot down was to destroy a number of planes, American planes, and sink four or five battleships that were antiquated anyway, and they wouldn't serve with the fleet because they were too slow and took too much oil, right? And then from then on, it was all piecemeal, 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 piecemeal. So I don't think it was that big a deal either way. Call me crazy, okay? On April 18, 1944, the Allies finally take Monte Cassino in Italy. General Mark Clark could rejoice. And to quote a Monty Python, and there was much rejoicing. Yay. In this case, the Polish troops had the honor of finally capturing the city. That was a butcher shop for 2 months, banging, banging, banging against the Gustav line. Finally, they took it, and then, all that was waiting for them was another line, above the Gustav line. That's the way the Italian campaign was until the very end. On April 18, 1945, beloved journalist, friend of the GI who'd made his bones, in Italy especially, just giving the American people a glimpse of how miserable it was to fight in Italy, especially in the fall and winter when it was raining, cold. They were in foxholes up to their, knees in water, trench foot. It was just, it was definitely not the heroic GI who can overcome everything. And he continued that, would be the GI's best friend, into Europe and into Germany and so forth. And he decided to go to the Pacific Theater. Unfortunately, he met his end in Ieshima off of Okinawa. And finally, on April 18, 1945, we're now into the season of mass encirclements and mass surrenders. Over 300,000 encircled German troops in the Ruhr region of Western Germany surrendered, and we're just days away from the war ending. And I'm not days away from ending this video. It's going to end right now. So I will see you tomorrow.